Lisbeth.
Adrian.
We are the last city. Let's do it again. Hi, I'm Lisbeth.
I'm Adrian.
We are the last city. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah, sorry for getting this to you a little bit later than we'd hoped. Combination of playing a few different shows. One of them was out of town, and a very specific type of writer's block I had on this song. I needed 5 words. It's 5 words short for 2 weeks, but here we are.
Finally got there. We also are very excited to share with you some progress from our Willfully Human project. So Adrian's going to be reading an excerpt from that later, along with our song. But before we get to that, I wanted to share with you that our store has more things in it online. It's thelastcitymusic.com/store. Our Best Bad Influence t-shirt is now on there with its final design, as well as a notebook that has a corresponding design. If you ever wanted your outfit to match your writing implements, now is your chance to do it. But in the process of setting up an online store and drop shipping, we've ordered a lot of samples to make sure we can get the sizing and placement right of different things. And we currently have 4 samples that we are going to be giving away to people who sign up on Patreon, which, if you don't know what Patreon is, it's a really great service that allows people to support the artists that they love in different ways. So if you sign up on Patreon at a $5 or more level, you can get one of these beautiful sample t-shirts. Isn't that exciting? And the links to all of this stuff, as well as a better picture, are going to be in our show notes. So take a look at that. You can see the shirts in greater detail. And then if you sign up, you get to pick which one you want. Supplies are limited, so you'll probably want to do it sooner rather than later.
Okay, so speaking of Patreon, we wanted to share a little bit more about that project you mentioned, Willfully Human. Each month on Patreon, we're trying to write a new song, and every Wednesday and Saturday, I'm trying to write 1,000 more words on this book that goes along with that song and those albums. And all of that is currently available on patreon.com/thelastcity. But to give you a taste of that book, and hopefully get you curious about the rest of it, I wanted to read a little excerpt from a couple of these, an excerpt from the excerpts. I didn't want to say it that way. Talk myself into a corner.
It's okay.
All right, so here we go. Vincent Charles Gage never got used to the nauseating feeling of removing the combination feeding and air tube that full immersion helmets required. He gagged as he wrenched the foot-long plastic tube from his throat and lifted the helmet over his head. He strained for a moment before the system autocorrected, and the 60-pound contraption once again felt as light as a baseball cap. Wading to the edge of the immersion tank, he waited as the MRSDs, or motion and resistance simulation devices, or tentacles, as the non-scientists called them, formed a short staircase. Virtual reality technology had progressed by leaps and bounds thanks to the allowance of full immunity and absolution waivers by the U.S. government in the mid-21st century, with FIAWs allowing technology and pharmaceutical companies full legal immunity when testing products on fully vetted citizens, or FVCs. Advancements had been made at rates never before imaginable. Novus Praeterita had barely registered on Wall Street, likely because of the multitude of corporations and underground tech farms working to provide what was now called ultra reality. The average American with at least $500 on a credit card and $50 a month for a subscription could lose themselves in a virtual reality designed to cater to their every impulse. But Novus Praeterita was different. Vincent had felt it the moment the NPT advertisement popped in his social feed. What they offered wasn't a fantastical version of the present. There were no rose-colored glasses. What NPT offered was a window into your own future and alternate futures based on realistic projections from your own past. No advertisements, no whitewashing, no points to earn, and no levels to conquer. Just a full immersion experience to answer the age-old question of what if things had been different. Before the commercial ended, Vincent had purchased his train ticket to the deregulation zone and was filling out the paperwork to become a fully vetted citizen. So, that's the overall framework we're starting with. And now a quick peek into one of these, as we call them, windows that come from these full immersion things. Window 1, Part 3. Is this seat taken? It is now. She only paused long enough to speak before returning to her apple martini. I quickly discovered it was her drink of choice. It was either the first thing she ordered or what she sipped while she waited for me. After a few more seconds, she leaned back and exhaled slowly. Uh-oh. We'd only been dating for a couple of months, but she'd never been good at hiding anything. She nodded to the bartender, who turned and grabbed 2 shot glasses and a bottle of whiskey. We watched as he made his way over, set them down, poured the first round, then left the bottle behind. Truth or shot, she said, finally looking up at me through bloodshot eyes. Probably start with a shot, I said. I eased into the bar stool beside her, fighting the urge to dig for more information. She had always been honest with me, but in her own time. The cheap whiskey burned, but I poured another shot and threw it back before returning the question to her. Just catching up. Truth or shot? Truth, she said. We're about to have a rather difficult conversation, aren't we? True. Boom. Cliffhanger.
How many windows do we have so far?
Currently, there are 4 different windows with at least 2 parts for each one. So there's,
Lots of reading material.
twice a week for the past month and a half. There's a lot waiting for you there. But, as we said, part of this project is also writing a song each month to go along with this. So that's what we want to debut next. The song that held up the live stream, but in the end, I think turned out well worth it. Tomorrow feels so evergreen. A racing heart at 17. I'm done with holding back. They say that love will find a way. Baby, you're my bullet train. I'm never looking back. Even if it's a lie, can it be true to me? I can't deny what I have truth might do to me. In the right light, on the right night. I just need to know, can you find me in this purple haze? Am I worthy of your scarlet embrace? I'll undress my secrets next to yours. I just had to know what love has in store in this purple haze. I used to want it crystal clear. Just had to know what brought you here. Now I'm just glad you are. Even if I'm a lie, look for the truth in me. Can't deny the half truths I refuse to see. If you're the right mix of my vices, I just need to know, can you find me in this purple haze? Am I worthy of your scarlet embrace? So, that is currently the old version. Sans those 5 words is available on Patreon, patreon.com/The Last City. But
We're gonna put the lyrics in the show notes too, so
lyrics
you
will
can
be up there.
see everything. I wanted to ask about the Purple Haze line because I know it's one that was important to you in the writing of this song, and I was wondering if you could tell us just a little bit about that and how you got to the final version of this.
For whatever reason, currently in life, I'm going through phases of obsessions, borderline curiosity obsession, with certain colors. For most of last year, it was the color red. I don't know why. Can't really explain it, but somewhere in the past 6 months, it changed to purple. Like looking up what that has meant historically, culturally, chakra-wise, and many different ways. Just was curious about purple, so I started doing research for this song. Because as soon as I laid out the instrumental, the color purple, it said this song is purple. Something in my head said that, so I started doing some research. And obviously, Purple Haze, good old Jimi Hendrix, y'all know about that. And as I was reading up on it, it just simply means confusion, but not necessarily a bad confusion. It's just things that used to be fundamental are shaken up for a little bit, and you're living in that headspace. And so it felt exactly right for this song and for this window in that project. And then I guess we came down to the last 3 words, or last 5 words. I guess it's more than 5 words if I'm honest. I just have to know what love has in store. There was a line I had before that, which is in the original demo, which I was trying to shoehorn in there, and it wasn't right. And I wasted most of that week pacing around the room trying to make it work. Then decided to just take a walk. Any creatives out there know that you get in your rhythms, and if you don't break them, they become your tune. So decided to finally take a walk and didn't make it to the end of the block before I was like, oh, well, yeah, that's what you were missing. Turned back around, figured out the chords, and here we are.
Fun fact about color theory, I learned when I was doing a branding and marketing apprenticeship that the color purple generally stands for imagination and creativity. So find it an interesting correlation. Like we said earlier, the lyrics of this are going to be up in the show notes. We're going to have probably this version on Patreon within the next week or 2.
Yeah.
So make sure you follow us on Patreon. Even if you follow us on Patreon for free, you can still get a lot of these updates. So if you want to see where the song goes, you can go do that. Again, links in the description. And the other thing we wanted to mention for 2020, and indefinitely, while Adrian is writing Willfully Human, if you sign up at the $15 or more level, he will write you into the story as one of his characters. Now, we are going to leave which character that ends up being up to his discretion, so take that as you will. But I think it's a fun
I'll make it worthwhile.
He'll make it worthwhile. So we hope you guys consider that as a quick recap. We have that as a perk. We have t-shirts for people who sign up at the $5 level or more. So
the first 4 people.
The first 4 people. As we ramp up to 2020, we've got a lot in store, and we want to make sure that we've got as many people on board as possible. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions about the song or about the stories, feel free to leave them in comments on Patreon, on Facebook, or YouTube, wherever you are watching this, and we will try to answer them either there or, if it feels appropriate, in the next live stream, which will be in January. So come join us again for that. See you guys soon, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas,
Peace.
all that stuff.